The observation deck's emergency klaxons should have been screaming, but they remained silent, a testament to either Ambassador Kraft's confidence or humanity's spectacular foolishness. On the diplomatic ship Orion Vanguard, Ambassador Kraft of the Vorlax species rose to his full 3 meters, his chitinous plates flaring outward in a display that had made 17 civilizations surrender without firing a single shot. His vocalization apparatus emitted a bone-deep rumble that rattled the conference table's molecular stabilizers. "Your species will withdraw from Sector 447, Kraft bellowed, his secondary mandibles clicking in the rhythm that preceded Vorlak's battle rage. "Or we will teach you what 47 conquered worlds already know. Resistance is merely prolonged suffering." Across the table, Ambassador Ella Chen set down her tea. She didn't flinch. She didn't pale. She simply took another sip and met Kraft's 6 eyes with her too. The silence stretched like a held breath. High above in the observation gallery, 3 young Flinny pressed their fuzzy faces against the transparent aluminum, their translator badges chirping softly. "Why doesn't the loud threatening bother her?" whispered Pip, the smallest, her violet fur rippling with confusion. "All species fear Vorlax displays," added Zim, antennae quivering. "It's documented across 47 worlds." "Look at her face," breathed Kessa. Is she amused?" Kraft's confidence wavered. His threat posture held, but something in his stance shifted, confusion bleeding into the choreography of intimidation. In 3 centuries of Vorlax expansion, no species had ever simply ignored a war display. Ella finally spoke, her voice carrying the peculiar flatness of someone discussing weather patterns. "Ambassador Kraft, I've reviewed your species' history. 47 worlds conquered over 3 centuries. Impressive." She pulled up a holographic display. "For comparison, humanity has fought over 10,000 documented wars against ourselves." The numbers floated between them like ghosts. "We've spent millennia perfecting the art of threatening each other," Ella continued, her fingers dancing through the data streams. "Nuclear annihilation, biological warfare, planet-consuming conflicts. We've heard every possible variation of surrender or die in 4,000 languages. Eventually, you learn something valuable." "And what is that?" Kraft's voice had lost its thunder. "That noise is just noise until it becomes action. And action requires calculation, not reaction." Ella expanded the display, showing trade routes in cool blue lines. "These routes don't violate Vorlax territory. They comply with Articles 14, 22, and 37 of the Galactic Commerce Accords. If you have legal objections, we can address them. If you're simply accustomed to species cowering at volume." She let the sentence hang, taking another sip of tea. Above, Pip's translator badge chirped with understanding. She removed the loudness. "What?" Zim turned to her. Inside herself, humans learned to remove the loudness, the part that reacts to threat sounds without thought. They've heard so much roaring that it became quiet. Kraft's plates retracted slowly, folding back into their neutral position. For a moment, he simply stared at the human across the table, this small, soft creature that should have been terrified. "You're not afraid," he said, and it wasn't a question. "I'm cautious," Ella corrected. "Fear and caution aren't the same thing. Fear makes you reactive. Caution makes you prepared." She highlighted 3 routing alternatives. "These are our primary proposals. I'm happy to hear your concerns." The shift in the room was palpable. Kraft lowered himself into his seat, not in defeat but in something stranger, recalibration. He'd come prepared for fear, anger, or defiance. He'd never considered indifference to the performance. "Your species is unusual," Kraft admitted. "We've had excellent teachers," Ella replied with the ghost of a smile. "Ourselves mostly." 3 hours later, the young Flinny descended from the observation deck, their minds buzzing with new understanding. "Did you see?" Kessa's fur shimmered with excitement. "The human didn't fight back, but she didn't submit either." She simply refused to play the game, Pip added, her small voice carrying wonder. And by refusing, she changed all the rules. Zim nodded slowly. Sometimes the most powerful response to aggression isn't louder aggression. It's choosing which battles deserve your fear. In the conference room, Ella and Krath finalized the first draft of their agreement. The trade routes would proceed. Territorial integrity would be respected. And Ambassador Krath, for perhaps the first time in his career, felt something approaching respect for a species he'd intended to intimidate into submission. As the Orion vanguard prepared to depart, Ella stood at the viewport, watching stars streak past. A junior diplomat approached nervously. "Ambassador, how did you know he wouldn't attack?" Ella considered the question. "I didn't, but I knew that fear is often the only weapon bullies truly possess. Once you stop providing it, they must find another language, and sometimes that language is negotiation." She turned from the viewport, adding quietly, "In the end, violence is the loudest argument for those who have run out of words. We've screamed ourselves hoarse for millennia. Now we've learned to listen for what comes after the roaring stops, and that's where real understanding begins." Behind her, the stars continued their ancient, silent dance, indifferent to the noise of species learning, slowly and painfully, to speak in something other than thunder.